Welcome back, and joining us for a look at the day's market moves is Nkosilathi Dube from Trive Investments. Thank you so much for your time, Nkosilathi. Such an interesting trading session today. We saw quite a lot of divergence between the counters, but also really the sectors. The industrial 25, is powering on, the financial 15, but the resources extending the losses that we saw yesterday. I actually want to start off with the biggest loser there under the resources, SASOL. Of course, I'm not sure if it was the oil price or if it was the production update that they gave us that actually prompted investors to react the way that they did, because that share price slumped, it nosedived to over 11%. Of course, that production update there, SASOL reporting a number of headwinds, including subdued chemical pricing and operational challenges. Is the party over for SASOL, because we know how much it's benefited from the rising oil price?
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to present on your esteemed platform. Today with SASOL, I think it was a mix of both the oil prices and the production updates. We saw the stock price plummet by 10%, which is quite significant. I guess you could say that it ran out of upside fuel.
Yeah.
It reported operational headwinds in its mining and secunda operations, and volumes are expected to max out at around 7.1 million tons versus guidance of 7.3 million tons. But at the same time, the sales revenue in its chemicals business was down 15% in South Africa and also across the board, driven by the lower prices of chemicals. So that has essentially weighed down on investors' minds, leading to the downturn. But on the brighter side, over the 9 months, we saw production in the mining and gas segments increase by 4% and 8% respectively, and that was boosted by its operational commitments over the 9 months, as well as a larger mining capacity for its gas operations.
Yeah. So would you say that really this was a wake-up call for investors, that as much as, there was this optimism around the oil price, were there actually still other factors at play for SASOL that you absolutely can't ignore?
Well, certainly, I think the oil price definitely is a major factor. Investors will likely be keeping close tabs on it to see how volatile it could be and what the impacts could be on SASOL. But also internally, when you're looking at the volume reports as well as the production, it's somewhat low, and that could weigh on the investors' minds. So we'll see how it plays out over the coming periods.
Yeah, all right. And they were talking about, some bottoming at the end of 2023. So looking like it's going to be quite a bumpy ride for SASOL as it gets to a solid place. Well, let's take a look at the counters on the other side of the spectrum. Capit, they actually came out with annual results, and it was the biggest gainer on the JSE there, as I'm looking now, up almost 8%. Of course, Capit posting 16% growth in the bottom line. The bank hailing its diversification effort as the driver of that earnings growth. Is Capit the gift that keeps on giving?
Yes, certainly. I mean, looking at it as being the winner of the day, it's quite a significant day for them. Like you said, they reported positive earnings results. Earnings per share was up 16%, but that also translated into a better dividend per share, which investors would be happy about. The dividend per share was up about 16%. And then looking at the net asset value, it increased 15% to 43.5 billion. So yeah, investors have been buying into that growth and also the potential growth. But looking at the finer details, we've seen that the performance was driven by its growth in its client base. It had 22 million customers at the end of the year compared to 20 million a year ago, which is quite a significant growth and has boosted both the top and bottom line. And then external to Capit, we found that the high interest rate environment has also boosted its interest income. And net interest income was up about 16%, and it could be a case where it might still benefit and still get some tailwinds from it as the interest rate environment still remains as is.
But really also quite interesting that their non-interest revenue was actually up by as much as it was. Well, let's get into the Anglo stable. And what I've noticed in the last few reporting periods when they come out with their production updates is that there's usually a divergence in the movements of the share prices where you'll get the parent trading in the green, but the platinum and iron ore trading in the red. But actually today they were all in the red. And I'm wondering if there was anything specific to note, if they were just caught up in the general negative sentiment under the resources, or if it was actually in their production numbers that weighed on investors today.
Yeah, well, certainly it was an interesting day for Anglo. It was down 6% for the day. It could definitely be a mix, because if you look at the production reports, they reported their platinum group metals production decreasing by 7%, but at the same time their sales volumes were flat. So they also stated that there were logistical challenges, with rail bottlenecks still an ongoing theme there at Transnet. And investors essentially lost confidence in it today, and it just reflects in the price action as well as the broader resource.
All right.
Industry.
Well, let us get to your stock pick for today. Nkosilathi, what are you picking?
All right, so my stock pick for the day will be MultiChoice Group. As we all know, it is a leader in the media and entertainment space in Africa. Its share price is already up about 50% year to date. And looking at the finer details, we've seen now that streaming has become such a huge part of our lives, and MultiChoice has taken advantage of this. In its last reports, DSTV Stream reported a growth in its active users by 87% from July to September in 2023, which is significant. But that trend was also similar across the premium subscriptions, which grew 5%. So looking at that alone, you can tell that there is a healthy and growing underlying business which the company can monetize on in the future. Also looking at its expansion efforts, it's also venturing into sports betting, and that in itself is a huge market. And as well as the ongoing acquisition efforts by Canal Plus, it kind of represents, the potential growth that it has. So yes, MultiChoice will be my stock pick, and I do believe that there could be potential for some tailwinds going forward as it monetizes on its growth as well as its expansion efforts.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights on what has been moving investors' money today. That was Nkosilathi Dube from Trive Investments.